Yay! Welcome to Immediate Review, where we see a movie. We can't see movies in theaters, but we review them immediately.
We're finishing up our Hobbit trilogy, motherfuckers.
The Hibbity Hobbit, Battle of the Five Armies. We just saw the extended edition.
The extended version. We haven't we didn't preface that before, but yeah, we've been watching the extended version. Okay.
Sure, it's in the title.
So before first two videos, we've mainly just been fanboying out. This one, we're finally gonna address all the criticisms and stuff. But first, should we go through the film?
Yes, general discussion of the movie first.
All right, y'all go first.
Okay, y'all gonna make me lose my mind. So, while I do really like this movie, this is definitely my least favorite of the trilogy. There's a lot of criticisms towards the end that I have, mostly around like kind of the logic of like what happens during the battle that kind of leads to the events of the very end, and we'll get to that. But yeah, and we'll get to it. But yeah, all in all, it is still enjoyable to watch. I love the opening. We get to see more of Smaug, which is just, amazing. The Black Arrow scene is excellent, way better than in the animated one.
Oh, no way.
And yeah, so all around pretty good. Definitely not as good as Desolation, though.
It's no Return of the King.
Yeah.
Mampton.
Sure. It's very visually stunning. I really like it as well. Just the first two really shine very brightly. But the action in this one, and right from the get-go, you start off with Smaug attacking, and then it lets up for only a little bit before getting back to the action. So
yeah.
I guess it's a good way to end the cycle.
No, the beginning of this movie is very action packed. Like,
yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on in the beginning of this.
Honestly, I think like the first 2 hours
still.
of this is really solid, and it's like the last 40 minutes where it kind of.
I completely agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So I dig Battle of the Five Armies. It's one of those ones. Yeah, I was disappointed a little when I first saw it because. It was, I just knew the extended cut would be better, and the extended cut is super awesome, but I wish the extended cut was the theatrical version.
Right.
Because the theatrical version, in my opinion, it just doesn't make any sense. The third act, like, it doesn't establish the rams, and so it just cuts to the dwarves on rams, and it makes no sense, and the dwarves and the elves don't fight. So, yeah, the extended cut, awesome. Still not as good as the first two, but like, I don't know. Every time I watch this one, I find more things to love about it.
There's Thorn.
Yeah, I don't know. Like with the first two, I've just like plateaued in enjoyment for them, but just like every time I watch Battle of the Five Armies, I just enjoy it a little bit more. It really just, it's a lot. It's a lot better than I and a lot of people give it credit for. All right.
So let's go. Let's do our talk about the movie scene by scene. We've done this in every single one of them. You should expect it by now.
Yep. We're trying to go in depth. Okay, so the beginning. Opens with Smaug attacking the city.
Yep, Smaug is attacking the city. They're trying to evacuate everybody. I love this scene. It's really good. It just shows the like true power of Smaug, and just as he just desolates the city, like, when he does his first Passover and it takes out like a fifth of the entire town in a one attack. It's just like
that swooping dive shot.
Yeah, like I'm so surprised that the amount of people at the end actually survive.
I know, right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
He takes this town out.
Yep.
You see the guy like falling into the water, still on fire.
Yeah, and yeah, the whole sequence where he's, you know, aiming the black arrow. I really like that it's they kind of like right at the beginning of the movie, you know, the like he's just like the kid is like trying to take charge, and the one else just like, oh, if you stay here, your family's going to die. Is that what your dad would want? And just kind of putting him down, and it's he who has the idea to grab the black arrow and take it to Bard, and yeah, ultimately starts the sequence of events that ends up to leading to Smaug's death. And yeah, it's like, you know, just shows like, yeah, don't underestimate people, you know, even if they're kids.
Yeah, I love the burned down Lake Town set and all the like people scrambling to survive and shit, and Bard hopping from rooftop to rooftop, and yeah, I also dig when the Black Arrow, it's like established in Desolation of Smaug, and they show like the lance, and like, this is how you kill Smaug, you got to use that, and there's even like a little, you know, slow zoom in of the little tower that has it basically builds up that Bard's going to use that machine, and he doesn't, and because yeah, it's like I don't know, it's
well, yeah, because that's like the machine.
How's he gonna get there? It's probably on fire right now. I don't know. He just uses what he can.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, and so he goes to the bell tower and he tries with his, you know, normal arrows, and they're black, of course, you know. And
Always retrieve them.
Yeah, there's this wonderful shot I love where he just like stops and looks at his arrows and just like takes a moment to breathe, and you can tell it's like, I don't know,
It's my last arrow.
Yeah, exactly. And then he just, the camera pulls focus from the arrow back to his face a few times, and it's like, I don't know, it's such a fast-paced, you know, action-packed movie, and there's just this moment where it stops, and yeah, I love that shot. Mampton, what do you think?
Opening shot, Smaug's on a rampage.
Smaug.
Just starts laying into people. And yeah, it looks like the animation, that style that they chose. It's spraying kind of like a liquid that's like exploding into fire, which is kind of the way that I would imagine if an actual fire-breathing reptile would do it. They'd just have kind of like a gland, so like somewhere in the back of their throat,
secrete some sort of,
and then it would projectile out of their mouth, and upon contact with the air, it just explodes.
Yeah, the fire was based on like this World War I flamethrower weapon that was like a just tunnel filled with gasoline that like spit it, and it basically looked like slushy flames. It was
it was intense.
Yeah. So yeah, changes I love about this from the book. So I love that the dwarves watch Smaug, and they witness what they've done. In the book, they're hiding in their caves. They have no idea what's going on. And yeah, they hear about it later. The first time they hear about it is when they march. The elves and the men march on the gate.
Oh, they don't even bother to come out and check?
No.
They're like, no, well, it's not a problem. He never came back.
You know, they give the Arkenstone more purpose, of course, and kind of raise the stakes with that. And the book, it's kind of just like Thorin really likes the jewel, like it's an heirloom, like it's special. He really likes it, but I don't know. It's just in the movie, it has a lot more weight to why he wants it, and it makes sense to why he would go so crazed for it. And get the dragon sickness, which is apparently
the covetousness,
an old fantasy trope that Tolkien liked. It's awesome that they need a big arrow to kill Smaug and not a tiny little arrow. Oh, I like that Bard doesn't become king instantly, and they kill the Master of Lake Town. In the book, the Master of Lake Town lives, and they're like, make Bard the master, and Bard's like, no, let's keep the master, and I'll just be a leader.
But in true karmic relief, they just fucking just splat him out with his
Yeah, they
barge
just
of gold.
killed Stephen Fry.
Yeah.
Just, like, get him out of here.
Yeah, they get rid of him.
And then you got that guy just screaming on the riverbank. So,
So the city isn't completely destroyed in the book, and they have the women and children stay behind, and so having like just the whole city be like refugees.
it's a very powerful scene.
Yeah, it's a lot better. And, yeah, exactly. And they have nowhere else to go.
Give me that blanket.
And I just love the tone. The moment Smaug dies, you can just like the stakes are immediately raised for.
And you just know that his body, when it hits, it's just gonna take out like a block.
Well, for what everyone wants to do, like to take control of the mountain.
Like political weight.
And yeah, exactly. I love that we had to rush the ending of the last one, but I love that Desolation ended right before the lake town. I knew it would. Everyone was all pissed off. I was like, fucking... I knew it. I don't know. It's logical. When you read the book, it's logical, Captain. It makes a great introduction. First of all, people who aren't familiar with The Hobbit, if the dragon dies at the end, and it's like, yay, the dragon's dead, they're going to be like, so why do I need to see the third one? And people were already questioning why they needed to see a third one in the first place. So it's like you can't really kill the main dragon that they've been talking about.
Right,
and so in this movie, it like starts with Smaug attacking, and then they kill the dragon, and then it's just like, you can tell by the way the dwarves are, and by the way Bard is, and everybody, and when it pans over to the mountain, and then just like the audience knows exactly what's coming, and what the stakes are, which are the mountain. And yeah, it's a vast improvement over the book.
I really want to talk about the next scene, though, right
Which
after
one?
Smaug.
Oh, Dol Guldur?
Yeah.
Yeah, how could I forget? Yeah, so in the book, this is what they do. All the other stuff happened for hundreds of years.
Right.
And then in the book, when Gandalf is like, I must leave you and go to Mirkwood, he goes, and then they do this. So, yeah, it's fantastic. What do you two think?
Yeah, we have this amazing sequence of like Gandalf being captured, and our first rendition of Azog, who looks like the crazy cult leader from Mad Max Fury Road. Like pulls him out of the cage and is like gonna take his ring of power, and then we get Galadriel shows up, and then Saruman shows up, and Elrond shows up, and we just
it's
get
epic.
this like
It gets a little cheesy at times, like when everyone's like, "You should have, you should have
stayed dead." and yeah, there's some Peter Jackson
and
throughout this whole
just
thing.
Radagast just rolls in like, "What up, Gandalf? Get
on my ride."
And yeah, we just get this
this
awesome fight sequence. They take out all the ring wraiths, and then
the ring wraiths are totally inspired by Ralph Bakshi's ring wraiths.
Yes, they
by
totally
the way.
are. They're like literally.
Choice.
There's one that had like the same exact helmet
and everything.
Like,
yeah,
it's seriously like straight from Ralph Bakshi's. It was cool to see. And yeah, the fight scene's awesome, and then Galadriel takes down Sauron and sends him off to the east.
And it sounds like they're slowing her voice down, but she's actually speaking that slow, and they're adding effects, of course, but like slowing it down is not one of them, which is cool. It's awesome.
Yeah, super cool. Awesome lighting, cool color grading they do when she's all upset.
And I really like that she calls him the servant of Morgoth, because that's like the only reference to him not being the highest ranking on that side,
Yep.
Oh yeah, I love a good Morgoth reference.
And she's like, I know she's like casting some form of incantation and whatnot, but it is kind of like she talks shit to him basically. She's just like, "You're nameless, like faceless,
formless.
and it's like,
Go
oh,
back to the void.
Yeah, it's like, damn.
It is.
He doesn't even have a body.
Because we got a taste of it in Fellowship of the Ring, and it just is like, it's like, yeah, it's like excessive and stuff, but it's like, I don't know, that's the type of shit they did. Like, Tolkien would write these simple epic stories about these characters doing crazy shit, and in Lord of the Rings, we're used to seeing them just deliver nice exposition, and this is like a fight between characters that we're not kind of used to seeing do that much action, truth be told. Especially Galadriel.
Yeah, Galadriel is not. She does not perform in any form of combat.
But this showdown happened, and in like the book canon, and I loved seeing it come to life. So I like the Raven reference. They have the ravens talk, but it's not as like obnoxious. I guess.
They look large.
Yeah. I mean, they're Middle Earth ravens, I guess.
Well, and the dwarves are small.
So the motivation for the elves and the men going to the mountain are much better. The elves in the book kind of just want revenge on Thorin for escaping, and then they're also like, my people have been affected by the mountain in vague ways. And then, the motivation for the men in the book is more or less the same. As the movie, it's just simplified. It's like, half our town's destroyed and we need to rebuild that half. Can we have some money? Where this one, it's like everything is at stake. They have nothing. Like,
right.
So yeah, their need makes more sense.
So I guess this chapter is the gathering of the clouds. So what do you think of all the brewing before the battle happens? All the drama that ensues. Bilbo's hiding the Arkenstone. So dwarves are worried about Thorin. Thorin's being fucking a crazy asshole who's got a sickness of the mind.
So I like the when the dwarves return, how they walk back and they're looking around, and Bilbo's like, "Oh, we need to get out of here right now. Like, let's go." And we kind of get this, like reintroduction to Thorin of like, yeah, he's a crazy ass motherfucker now. This is who he is in this movie. Get ready for a new arc. And like Thorin goes on some fucking arcs in this. Like the entire trilogy is just like he's got like the most arcs out of everybody. And
most arcs.
Like yeah, he goes on so many of them, like 5 at least. I think. Yeah, it's intense. But yeah, he does a really good job of like portraying like how crazy it is. The actor is like really good when it comes to like facial expressions and like how
agree.
He delivers tone. So he does this really, really well. Yeah, we get some.
You can see the crazy in his eyes.
Yeah, and we get some scenes with Balin where we get a little bit more like good exposition about the dragon sickness and kind of what it is, and the kind of hint, wink, wink. I have the Arkenstone. It would giving it to him help maybe. It's like no, it would not. And yeah, I love the
that's not in the book.
Yep.
Like Thorin's kind of like an asshole once they get there, but he doesn't have like the full on dragon sickness.
Okay.
He just gets a little more self-absorbed, I guess, because now he's got his mountain.
Yeah, and I like the whole interaction of between Bilbo and I don't know the dwarves' names, but who he says
Boffer.
Boffer, yeah, who's always catches him when he's about to leave, and we get a chance for him to run out and give the Arkenstone to the other group, which completely changes the like dynamic of it's not just like, oh, let us in, we need gold. It's like there's an actual negotiation that gets to happen, and yeah, which leads into the dwarves showing up. But yeah,
Mampton, what you got?
Thorin becomes much more dependent on Bilbo because he doesn't think that he can trust anybody. He's having everybody scour Erebor for the Arkenstone, and he just doesn't suspect Bilbo at all, which even though he's doing it for his own good, Bilbo, he's still being a little bit underhanded and sneaky, but that's not out of his character ever since he's been in contact with the ring.
Yeah, well, he initially grabbed it for Thorn, and then he just kind of realized maybe he shouldn't give it. It's kind of a slippery slope, and
right.
As Thorn gets worse, it's harder to give the Arkenstone up to him.
And then, the men and the elves don't necessarily get along, but they'll use each other to mutual advantage. Enemy of my enemy type deal.
Yeah.
And then, it's you really see the deterioration of Thorin's character just in a very short amount of time. I think even his facial hair starts to lighten almost. He starts to age.
Yeah, they gray him up. They totally do.
That's a great sequence. It definitely conveys a sense of anticipation for battle and conflict.
So, the scene when Bilbo sneaks out. Okay, I really love this, that in this movie, Gandalf is overwhelmed, and is like, oh my gosh, I did not know it would come to this. Bilbo, get out of here. This started out as me teaching you some weird fucking wizard lesson, but you need to go home. And, 'cause that's what Bilbo's wanted this whole time. And Bilbo says no. He's like, I'm gonna stay. I'm gonna fucking fight for the dwarves. I'm gonna fight, with whoever, I don't know, is benefiting the situation most. And he doesn't want to give up.
He doesn't want them to die. He's just like, I would save them, if I could. And it's like he's trying to do whatever he can to manipulate the elves and the men to, get them what they want and spare the dwarves because they're being super fucking stubborn.
But I guess I was kind of cross-referencing two scenes, because later there's a scene where Gandalf tells him to go home, and he is like no. But in the book, when he gives him the Arkenstone, he specifically says, I just want to go home. When he gives it to him. And he's still just, the thing people miss is in the book, he never really learns anything or grows at all. I don't know, people might get mad that I say that, but just, it's the moment he leaves his house, he's like, oh, I want to go home. He continuously, throughout the book, wishes he could go home. At the end of the book, he wants to go home, and during the battle, he puts on the ring and hides until it's over so he can go home. And then he goes home. And then that's the
And what's he do when he's home?
He relaxes, and he brags about the fact that he went on an adventure.
Drinks and gets high, man.
It's like, let me tell you, Bilbo bitched the whole time. Because that's all he does in the book. Similar to the animated one, how he's constantly just like, oh, confess. We get a little bit of that in An Unexpected Journey, but it's charming and just better done than just him whining.
Yeah, Martin Freeman, he has
Morgan Freeman.
But yeah, and in the book, Gandalf's attitude is just like, ho, just another war. Woo. I don't know, he's just very laissez-faire about the whole thing, and he's like, woo, to see how this turns out. Where there's stakes in this. They mention that people want the mountain for its the position on the map.
Well, and he's like, it's like Sauron. Sauron wants this mountain. He didn't want to take the dragon. He doesn't want the dragon. He wants the strategic position. And it just shows this, I don't know, just the dark, entrance to Erebor, and just, it leading up to the mountain, and it's like, damn. It is a fortifiable, position, and, very easily defendable. And I was just, thinking, just, it's so deep, and there's caverns just everywhere. They could turn that thing into, an orc breeding factory.
Yep.
And just send armies out of there.
Well, they've got Erebor, the giant halls, which is comparable to Moria, and then and then they've got Dale right there that they could turn into just like an orc city. So basically, they have 2 massive cities and plains that they could do whatever with,
and access to the water, so they could have navies as well.
What's up?
I said so they can pollute it.
Exactly.
Well, they probably would pollute it.
Like Minas Morgul, the green place that Frodo and Sam and Gollum go by in Return of the King. That used to be like a Gondorian city, and then it got taken over. So basically, that's what would happen to fucking Erebor, or what we saw in Angmar when freaking Legolas and Tario went there. Okay, so the battle itself, it all builds up. And so, in the good version of this movie, the extended cut, the elves and the dwarves fight first. And it is fucking awesome.
It's probably one of the best parts of the movie.
One thing I'd like to talk about. Every single soldier, orc, elf, man, every single, like, CGI wide shot of... any character in this movie is done with motion capture. 12 stunt people got together and they did all of it. Hundreds of thousands of motion capture. So I know a lot of people complain about the CGI, but they put a lot of work into the CGI in this one. And yeah, it is awesome.
This fight is awesome. If you haven't watched the extended edition of this movie, you need to.
It's the theatrical version is, I don't recommend watching it at all.
The fight is completely different, and the way that
they don't fight.
Well, I mean, just everything in general. It's just like the orcs show up and then they have a thing, but there isn't as much to it in terms of like the tactics that they do throughout the whole thing.
No, exactly. In the theatrical cut, Dane shows up, and then it's like right as they're about to fight, the orcs come out, and then so it's like, oh, okay, let's fight them. So in this one,
well, and there's a lot more stuff about like in the orc fight as well, but we'll get to that.
The R rating?
Maybe.
I honestly don't know what contributes to the R rating. I don't think that battle tactics would contribute to that.
I guess because it's human on human this time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. But yeah, basically they have these, they have an arrow volley at the beginning, and the dwarves have these, like spinning like arrows with like fans at the back of them that can like
the twirly
whirlies that can wipe out the other arrows, which is super cool. And then when they charge, the elves kind of create these ramps that ramp up and then back into themselves and create these like spear corrals that the rams can kind of jump into and, get slaughtered. And they have even more space where they're getting attacked from all sides where they're running through. Super fucking cool. Just little stuff like that is in the extended edition, and it just shows like that they were actually thinking about what a battle like this would look like and what tactics each side would have to face the other, and using like actual like Roman like cavalry like tactics. Like
Peter Jackson's like a master of battle tactics. Like he studies like war history and just really knows his shit on that stuff.
And it's super cool to see. The only one in the movie that isn't really that cool is when Thorin and the crew come out.
Oh, we'll get to that. But the orcs come out with the wereworms, which are in the book. They're not
graboids, man.
They're not as detailed, but they're there. And so the fucking Angmar army with Gundabad orcs come out, and that's when Azog comes out with his badass signal thing.
He's got signal flags.
Yeah, and that's when the battle really gets juicy. I mean, just like I I just never realized how many trolls are in this movie doing crazy fucking shit. Like they've got
they've got like
cannonballs or trebuchets strapped to their back. The one guy's got like the concrete head and smashes into it
and dies.
Yeah, there's specific trolls that are trained with a specific flag movement to know when that happens they need to go and take out the nearest like enemy vehicle or something like that, and they'll just like he does it twice where it's just like destroy their war machines and then they're like and they go and like attack them and whatnot. And it happens twice. Yeah. Right at the very beginning, and then when they get the rams and start heading towards the river.
And then you got Stumpy with the man with metal pegs for legs.
Yeah, he's got chain and link, like mauls, maces on his hands and mauls for legs.
And
it's
then
like
his
hilarious.
eyes have hooks in them.
Yeah. and an orc rides on his head and steers him.
He must have just like been a nightmare to work with.
It's like it's the most Peter Jackson thing like ever. It's hilarious.
I know, I love it. He didn't create the creature too, so like
he approved it though.
Oh no, like he was heavily inspired. Like in the behind the scenes, like one of the artists like drew it up as their craziest design, and Peter saw him as like that character is going in the movie, and I love Stumpy.
And Stumpy saves the day.
Yeah, I mean, what would you say his name was? Buffer?
Buffer.
Yeah, he climbs on top of it and takes.
And then he controls Stumpy, and yeah.
Stumpy becomes a good character.
So before we move on to the rest of Thorne's drama, I'd just like to acknowledge that Alfred is the shit, and I love him.
Alfred's so fucking funny.
A lot of people hate Alfred because he's not in the book, but he is like from Monty Python movie. And a lot of people hate him for that reason too.
Dude, he is so funny.
We're talking about Ryan Gage's character.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alfred. I absolutely love him. I love how he tries to like slink his way into being like Bard's like right hand man, and eventually Bard does just use him. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean the only issue that I have with him is he's introduced as a character who's like squandering power and is like evil. You know, like this guy is fucking evil. Like even at the beginning,
Desolation,
in Desolation, and in this one too. Like when they get on the boat and they're going, it's just like, oh, it sure would be nice if we could take some of these people. It's just like, yeah, but they're not worth it. I agree, they're not worth it. And he like kicks someone in the face off the boat. Like he's a piece of shit. And so the big problem is like, because he's essentially still squandering for power, and then they kind of just like let him have power and whatnot, where he you like you said, like Bard just kind of ends up using him. He doesn't really have any like major negative consequences for his actions at all, besides being trebucheted into a troll's mouth.
I mean, I see what you mean, but
I'm not saying
he
that's
almost
why
got ripped apart. And Bard kind of saved him. I don't know. I think it's just a testament to who Bard is.
And I'm not saying that I hate the character at all, but that's like why narratively a majority of people don't like him, is because he's portrayed as like a bad character that doesn't have that karmic kind of reaction. He just it just happens to him too, and at the same time, it's not even guaranteed.
In the theatrical cut, he doesn't die.
Yeah, exactly.
And that one, I can see what you're talking about.
And in this one, it's insinuated that he dies. He gets trebucheted into this thing, and it falls over, and it has the coins fall out, and it's like, yeah, he's dead, but it's like, realistically, would that really kill a person?
I mean, maybe he went into shock. I don't know.
There's a benefit of the doubt. I'm saying, even with this one, like, it was not a concrete "you're dead" and this feels.
No, I know
justified.
what you mean. There's not enough time to suffocate or anything. Yeah.
And just I don't think that his death was worth how bad of a person he was. Like, he didn't get enough punishment that led to him dying. It kind of just. He gets trebucheted and then it happens. Like, he didn't suffer enough.
I mean, trebuchet down a troll's throat. That's
but if he like got captured by orcs and was like dismembered, piece by piece on camera, I think that would be more beneficial, more like equivalent to the type of person he was. You know
That's
what I
I like the way you think. Manton,
that's all I'm saying.
chime in.
Alfred was a funny ass character. They embellished everything about this guy. I remember in the behind the scenes, they're just saying how they had to write like a character for him because he was just there was something about him that they liked.
Oh yeah. And it's mentioned that the master does have like an assistant type in the book. So
Master?
and I said, Master, no. Thorin gets told off by Dwalin, and then goes and reflects in his life, and like probably my least favorite scene ever.
Yeah, there are certain times when you can use flashbacks or, you know, like repeating something that you've already seen or audio you've already heard and it works. I think a perfect example is when at the very end of Fellowship of the Ring, when Frodo's standing on the shore and the boat's in front of him and he's holding the ring in his hand and he's just like, he just has this like, you know, he's just, you know, this fucking sucks.
I wish the ring had never come to me.
I
wish it never happened.
And then,
so do all of
and
the
then
seasons.
Gandalf says it again. A perfect example of where that works. It just kind of repeating.
Oh, they're
everything,
overlaying so much from
falling
the
into the gold. You know,
this
just,
the sad thing too is honestly, if you just cut the sound, it'd probably be a pretty good scene. Like, and just had it be music and, you know, struggling just maybe
like,
one or two choice phrases and like, you know what I mean? But they overdo it. It's like
there's so
it's like they
quotes.
forgot to click, you know, the off button in their
Yeah.
the possible.
And it's like I get the framing of it because it's like there's a lot of focus of like him and like his need for the gold and how the gold's important.
I love the idea. Like when I saw the flat gold, I was like, oh, this is cool. And he reflects on it, and then.
Well, and then it shifts, like it like says, you know, like I'm not my father, you know, at the beginning, and then by the like it repeats that like multiple times at the end, and then the last thing he says is I'm not my father, and then, you know, he throws the helmet his crown to the ground. And so I get where they were going with it, where they wanted to have this like, you know, barrage of stuff going on through his head that's trying to justify his behavior, and then he's coming back in with this I'm not my father, bloody bloody bloody. Oh no, I'm not my father, bloody bloody. I'm not my father, fuck. And then he just, you know, he gets over it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you do.
Yeah. It's my least favorite.
Yep.
But then it's followed with a good emotional drama scene between him and Keeley.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good. And that's one thing I like about this movie, this trilogy, and really all the Middle-earth movies. It's just like they're really sincere in their drama. You know, they have bits of comedy. And I mean, all six of them
but it doesn't try
are funny to an extent. But like, when they need to stop and have an emotional beat, they do it. And
they don't bathos it at all.
I think that's part of why these movies don't work for people either. Is, I don't know, Lord of the Rings came out in a time when just like blockbusters, there were not. I don't know. There were not a lot of things to choose from. Harry Potter just came out, so it was like things were looking good. But I think people were just more open to a sad. I don't know, just an emotional swords and axes and goblins movie, where Unexpected Journey came out the year the first Avengers movie did, and so each Hobbit film is coming out as more like, I mean, that's the standard in what audiences like love. And
well, yeah, I mean, if that scene happened in an Avengers movie, where like, you know, they have, you know, us Durin folk, you know, like we never run from a fight. And like they're like standing there and they're looking at each other and they're crying and it's happy. It's like, oh, the king is back. Like if that was a Marvel movie, someone would be like, hey, get a room, guys. And then, you know, they'd go back to the
cheap laugh.
Yeah, it's like they'd ruin the moment with some fucking stupid shit and make me hate the entire franchise.
And now we're detracting and talking shit, but it's a comparison I'm making because it's just I don't know, just blockbusters of the past, you know, there used to be more sincerity, and now there's a fear of being like cheesy and lame, and so the trend is to like have an emotional scene and then make fun of it. Like it's and not really own it. And The Hobbit, yeah, is like a lot of people don't like how long the movies are, and there are a lot of just like emotional beats, and I don't know. It doesn't work for a lot of people, but I dig it. And even nowadays, you know, like that's why I like movies like Alita. So yeah, then they charge out.
Yeah, we get the bell gong.
And 12 dwarves or 13 dwarves is enough to
I'm telling you, man,
change the tides.
It's the epic loot. They got epic loot in the vaults, and they come out, and man, they got
mithril
fucking
shit.
Yeah, they got stats, dude. They deal tons of damage, and they don't gotta like even really try. They're like their characters are so empowered from the gear.
Their hero class.
This is a fantasy role playing game, man. It's like they leveled up.
I laugh every time when he's just like, when Dane's like, "Where's Thorn? We need him," and then it just pans out in this gorgeous shot of like hundreds of thousands of soldiers. Like Thorn coming out is gonna make a difference. And
one guy.
It's happens in the book, and it's interesting because they talk about in the behind the scenes how it's just the moment works in a book, but it's so hard to realize on screen. And you know, considering stuff they were willing to change, I'm surprised they still kept the. I guess it is just like, you know, an important moment that really does cap off the arc. But yeah, it's just when you see it on screen, it's just like that doesn't mean anything. 13 people.
Yep. So at this point in the movie is where things kind of start going downhill for me.
Yeah. I agree. Everything before that, most of the problems are pretty nitpicky, honestly. But this is I agree. Continue.
So yeah, here, you know, we've been saying, 13 dwarves join the battle and completely turn the tide, and we get just a cheesy ass line from Gandalf. They're rallying to their king. It's so.
It's awe-inspiring.
He's taking his best warriors.
Yeah, it's like, he's taking his best warriors. It's so lame. And yeah, so that happens.
Hopefully you ordered extra cheesy.
Yeah, and so, you know, they kind of.
That's what I'm saying, though. I love it, man. I love it. Like.
So yeah, they fight their way through. We already kind of talked about all the trolls and stuff. And so after that, they kind of decide, like, oh, what are we gonna do? And they're like, we're gonna take out Azog. And so it's like, okay. And how are you gonna do that? Like Gandalf literally turns into C-3PO. Like, just fucking like clone, like Attack of the Clones, fucking C-3PO.
He totally does.
Like it's weird. So yeah, so they get on their like Ram Rider thing, which like they haven't.
Matt, chime in anytime you want. By the way, man.
Yeah, chime in anytime, man. But yeah, this is where kind of the logical decisions start kind of getting weird, because it's like, okay, we're gonna take, you know, five of them, 6 of them. They were gonna get on this thing and they're gonna like go.
I think it was just 4: Dwalin, Philly, Killy, Thorn.
Okay.
He's taking his best warriors.
Yeah, and so they go and they like, you know, it's just very unrealistic that like this one machine like is gonna be able to make it through the hordes of orc that they like happen to make it through.
Right.
The whole thing, like I have to completely subvert my belief of anything that's going on in this scene. You know, it's just like the whole thing, and I think Peter Jackson even said in the behind the scenes stuff that it's just very like lavish and crazy and kind of I don't know the word that he used to describe it, but kind of just over the top, I guess. And he was just like, oh yeah, that's totally like all that it is, and they just had a ton of fun with it. And so it's fun, and it is cool, having the rotating kind of archer cannon and whatnot. But yeah, just this whole sequence of them getting to the point where they're going up.
Oh yeah, it's unnecessary.
Yeah.
It's fun though. I dig that one. Honestly, it's a lot better than fights that have yet to happen. But
Yeah, that's just like they're just mowing through everybody, and it's just a little bit unbelievable that
yeah, a lot of it.
they're just taking out everybody. It's like, oh, well, if it was that good, why wouldn't they just using just like a fleet of those mowing down everybody? But
or like why are they being slaughtered when like they're able to just all kind of get onto a cart and just go and take on?
And then it just kind of turns into kind of like a video game. You're like, oh, it's the ice level. Shit.
It's the ice level. That's hilarious.
I mean, it's still fun, but it becomes a little bit more cartoonish.
Oh yeah, definitely. Part of why people hate these movies.
And so yeah, during all of this, there's like a bit of stuff that we cut back to that happens inside Dale, like the elves wanting to leave, and them being convinced not to, and like the scene.
Thranduil's kind of done with the whole situation.
Yeah, just kind of little stuff like that where stuff's going on, and I mostly like the stuff that happens inside of Dale.
I think it's fantastic. Yeah,
I don't really have any complaints about anything that happens in there. Most of it is with the main dwarf group that we've been following. Once they get up to the Overlook,
right?
But yeah,
no, it's. I'm glad that the lake people are gonna go up to Dale now and reclaim it. Kind of like bring the full circle.
Yeah, I agree. I love the Dale set. They literally just burnt down the one that they used last time, and it's fantastic. It's like a tight knit battle area, and it's I think the only times in the movie where we get to see some orcs, some fucking orc makeup. So I love all the scenes in Dale. Thought it was clever to include that. That's not in the book at all, that they fight in that area at all. So yeah, I've got written down for stuff I like better than the book. In the book, the two armies are wargs and goblins that are out for revenge because they killed the Goblin King. Where this one is the two armies, one from Angmar, one from Dol Guldur, that the previous two movies properly built up, and it's just like basically all these threads are coming to a conclusion rather than just kind of simple revenge from, I don't know, where the dwarves have been lately.
Well, if it's only 100 of those goblins, I think 2 of them can knock it out pretty easy.
Jesus Christ, no more than 100. But I love Thorin's fight with Azog. It's great. I don't love... Fuck, man. We forgot to talk about... I wish Tauriel killed Bolg when they pushed off the cliff.
Oh, we haven't even gotten to that point yet. We haven't even talked about... Like, we were at stuff.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I skipped.
That stuff when they get up there, because I have some
Go on. Say.
So, yeah, when they get up there... like the whole time Azog's up there, he's got a ton of people all around him, they're blowing horns, they're showing flags and everything like that. They get up there, the whole place is empty. All right, it's a fucking trap. Like, the second that you see that, where did everybody go? There's two options. It's a trap. They retreated.
I mean, they're young and dumb.
But that's the thing. He's like, okay, you're gonna go this way, and you're gonna be quiet. And if you see anything, it's like the smartest thing to do, because like they're there to kill Azog, right? But the most important thing is to take out his ability to signal to his troops. Like that was the whole point. It's like, yeah, we got to kill Azog, but if he's gone, the next most important thing is to destroy those fucking flags. So you move as a group to take out those fucking flags, and you get the fuck out of there before they can spring their fucking ambush.
That's true.
And what does he do? He sends both of the fucking youngest people together, like, into the fucking tower to skulk around, and then Azog kills them both.
It's because they needed to die.
And so, yeah, this scene, I just, like, I love the fights in it. The fights are great. Legolas versus Bolg is fucking awesome.
You dig it, cool.
I love the fight, yeah, especially when he's like fighting him with the goblin cleaver, and like he looks up and sees the orc or the goblin or troll or whatever the fuck it is about to kill him, and he throws it, and then when the thing falls and he grabs it again, it's like boom, the goblin cleaver back into fucking the Thorin's hands for the final battle, and it's super fucking cool to watch that sword go from the troll cave and travel with him and everything that it did, and get named and everything, or at least acknowledged of what its name was, and then get taken by Legolas, and Legolas just fucking slaughters a ton of the orc with it, and then back into Thorin's hands for the final fight. It's like poetic, dude.
I do love that. I just for that fight, I just wish it took place at a different time, maybe. I don't like that it cross cuts with Thorin and Azog. And it also bums me out because, like, Bolg kills Keely, and then Taria, like, fights Bolg, and then she goes to, like, push him off, and they both fall off. And I don't know, I just really would have liked if they just both died right then and there.
She's not a super important character, so...
Well, I just expected that to happen, because naturally she's not in Lord of the Rings, and it's like... It's, out of all the characters that can and, probably should die, and it just makes, her and Keely's story all the more tragic that they're both, dead. And
I think it would have been way more corny, though, to, like, have that happen where, like, he like, they stab him and he dies, and then she, like, oh, and she throws him off the cliff and they die together.
It's true. It's a cliche, but
and if that happened, then who's Legolas gonna fight? Like, he hasn't fought anybody.
And that's like, exactly why it happens, because in the end of Desolation of Smaug, he was running after Bolg. And then got to finish the fight. Legolas is the son of Thranduil. Bolg's the son of Azog. Thematically, I get it. I just. I thought Tauriel was going to die. I thought it'd be cool if Tauriel died.
Dude, it sounds like you're letting your expectations get in the way of enjoying the scene.
In a way, yeah. Because it just made complete sense to me. But...
well, not to Peter Jackson, apparently.
No, I totally understand why. It makes sense, but every time I watch the fight, I'm just kind of like...
And I do want to say, I don't think that it interrupts the fight with Thorin and Azog, because Azog, like, trips and, like, falls down a thing. Like, Thorin's, like, kicking his butt when they're not on the ice, and he, like, slips and falls down, and then a number of other orcs end up coming, and Thorin has to, like, fight them and gets moved onto the ice, and then the other army shows up.
It's true. It does both. It cuts between... In fact, I think that orc stuff exists only so it can cut back and forth between the, like... Because
there's the whole thing where Thorin's, like, orcs are coming at him and whatnot, and Legolas is up in the tower, like, shooting down at him, and that's, like, after him and Azog have already engaged.
But imagine if the Bolg fight took place, like, maybe after they did the whole ram chase through the ice. Like, after that whole ram chase, then it cuts to Legolas and Bolg and stuff, and I guess Keely has to die for it all to work out. I don't know. It's I don't have the answers. I'm not the one who made the movie. I still dig it. I don't hate it, but it's
I dig the fight, man.
It is what it is.
They beat each other up. They're stabbing each other, and like he fucking almost falls a bunch.
No, that's
of
what I'm
times
saying.
and,
I dig the fight
down.
itself. I just like wish it was somewhere else, but I have no fucking clue where. But it is great, and yeah, we were watching the behind the scenes, and one of the more over the top moments is when the bricks fall and Legolas jumps on them.
Right, because he's so light.
Yeah, in the behind the scenes features, they pointed out that like in Fellowship, they have him walking on the snow when everyone else is sinking because he's so light. And they were basically like, yeah, he's so light that like he's still able to build inertia off falling bricks. And I was just like, holy shit. Yeah,
well, and that more has
I didn't think about that.
And that more has to do with speed too, because if he's fast enough, then the falling doesn't necessarily matter because he's quick enough to, it's like walking on water.
So the end of Keely dies and Tariel's sad. How is her surviving
a good
better
thing?
than them both dying a sad
sad
Shakespearean death?
It's not. It's just that's how it happened.
Because I think that's what I like about it. It's just like they both were like, it's very classic,
lovers.
just Romeo Juliet. But then
Wouldn't
they
it be
never even
Romeo?
got to. I don't know. They just
She kisses his corpse.
Yeah, she kisses his corpse exactly.
Because he's non-threatening at
That's
that point.
weird. They should have just both died and it's just
And been buried together.
and it was
That would have been hot.
what's it called? I don't know, but
It's kind of like Carrie Poppins, y'all.
I was definitely with Desolation. I wasn't too against their relationship, but it didn't pay off for me in Battle of the Five Armies. Mampton, what's up? Sorry, we're hogging it.
I'm listening to the fight sequences between the two and how it's cutting through. No, both fights were super important, and it's basically the climax of the film there, and so it's got to be this over the top shindig.
It's true. Yeah. It's like Peter Jackson's just like, this is the last Middle-earth movie I'm making. Like, there are gonna be 50 trolls.
I want troll on troll violence.
There's
Words.
Yeah.
So yeah, the fight with Azog and Thorin.
I love it.
The shot where he shows up on the ice and he's standing there all,
And the mist is all
super cool shot.
The set piece of just like the ice that's about to break and they gotta bounce. It's great.
So that's cool. But I was not a fan of Azog's like weapon change before this. Like when he fights him on the top of the like in the upper area before he falls down, he has like a maul, like a mace basically, and in this one he literally has like a rock and chain, and it like loses him the fight, like straight up it loses him the fight. It's like a menacing, it's a menacing thing, and I think it might be like a little homage to the Witch King from Return of the King, because he kind of has that chain mace thing, but much shorter, and like he wields it better. But like Azog legit, like,
I mean, it could just be used a weapon, I guess. Yeah, I think they just changed the weapon out just for the sake of it.
I think it was just a thematic choice of just like, I think that using this would be cool. And
just like, did you notice how he replaced the little pitchfork claw in his arm with like a fat sword?
Yeah. It was like a pronged sword.
And that whole thing, how he breaks the ice with it, then he ends up falling in because his armor's way too heavy, and then stabs up through the ice. I do like all of that, but like the fact that like they don't show when the change happens or how it happens, and like just kind of, it doesn't give me any reasoning of why he did it besides just they thought it would be a cool thematic choice, and then that just it's just like it's a dumb choice on Azog's part.
You just need to add a scene that's like, bring me the ball and chain.
Yeah, or something. You know, and or like some explanation of like you know,
it just
like
doesn't make sense.
like he fought with it at Moria or something.
Well,
And he slaughtered a ton of people with it, and that's what he decides to use. Like that would have been a better for me at least. Than him just pulling it out and you know it being like essentially the bane of his fight. You know, it's like
yeah, I think it's because it's the weapon he fought with last time. The last time him and Thorin faced off.
He had a chain?
No, it's sorry the weapon he'd been using throughout the film. He had already fought Thorin with that in an unexpected journey.
did he?
Yeah. When at the end when they charge off, he like whacks Thorin in the face with it, and then it shows him fighting with it in the Battle of Moria as well. So I think they were just trying to mix it up since Azog had already fought Thorin twice.
Yeah, I guess the biggest reason I have a problem with it is Azog at no point in the entire series shows himself to be like stupid in any way, and like this decision to bring this out and fight him on the ice was just
and he joined Sauron.
Like, I mean,
just kidding.
it was a very dumb decision. It's like he's an
orc.
orc.
He's an orc.
He has to fucking.
I have no choice.
But yeah, so that's the issues I have there. Other than that, I really like how Thorin wins the fight, especially watching the behind the scenes stuff.
I think that was a draw.
I mean, he lives longer, man. It's not about like you know that they both
when he lays
die.
Azog down like that, he gets such a little puppy dog face. It's just like you just killed me.
He does have big puppy dog, blue puppy dog eyes. But
stab.
yeah, and I like the you know how they do it where he pulls the sword out and like you know and watching the behind the scenes stuff if you haven't you should. There's a really cool scene where he's
got 30 hours to spend in quarantine. Do it.
Yeah, like Peter Jackson is like watching, like standing over Thorin, and is just like as he's holding the sword there, he's just like, "All right, you're struggling, you know, you're struggling," and then you realize it, and then his eyes like relax, and he's just like, "It's okay, it's okay, you're okay with it," and then. And then he pulls the sword out and like, oh, and you know, stabs him back. And yeah, they didn't end up using the take that they did in the version that they showed, like that version. But it was a great fucking take. I don't know why they didn't do it. It was probably because it was much longer.
They had too many good takes.
Yeah, too many good takes to choose from. Some are gonna slip through the cracks.
So when Bilbo gets to him, it's so sad and amazing. And they're both acting their ass off, and they're so good. It's amazing.
So yeah, he comes over. He's sad, and he's like, you know, look at the eagles.
Damn it! To shed adventures.
But yeah, good scene. You know, and then we kind of get all the dwarves come over, and they have their kind of moment with Thorin, and
very somber.
I absolutely love it. It's a perfect example of just. Taking the time.
And Azog fulfilled his destiny of ending the line of Durin.
Dane is part of the line of Durin, I believe.
Well, shit. How many are there?
I could be wrong. It could have just been Philly Killythorn. Yeah, I like Bilbo doesn't give the jewelry to the Elf King in the movie. I'm glad he gives the jewelry to him in the book. Oh, I love the moment Bilbo and Gandalf share where they just don't talk, and then Gandalf kind of just clears out his pipe and fucks with them a little, and
he's so clean. Yeah, that's fine.
And then we get Thorin's funeral extended cut. Bilbo saying goodbye to the dwarves. They're all bawling their eyes out for real. There was even a take where the camera wasn't even on Martin. It was just on the dwarves, and Martin was just acting just to help them, and like he couldn't help but cry during it. And yeah, tea is it full? You're welcome anytime.
Yep, good scene.
Don't
bother knocking.
So when Bilbo and Gandalf are crossing over the New Zealand terrain, they they kind of have parting words, and it's pretty close to what's in the book, but like the tone is totally different. Like, it's a lot happier. Like, my boy, you're just quite a little fellow in a wide world after all. Like, I don't know, it's more lighthearted, but in this one, it's like Gandalf's
ominous,
he's like, he's worried, and he knows that this, the battle for Middle Earth is still about to begin. And then, but when Bilbo gets home and he's in his house and he's kind of toying with the ring, it's like, I don't know, just like the filmmakers knew that the ending is not happy, because in the book it's very happy, but it's not. Like, the ring is like technically the worst thing that ever happened to him in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and in the way that it's presented is very dark up until it like, the knock on the door. And it's like, oh, we don't want any well wishes. It starts like where we have left off and what we remember from the Fellowship of the Ring. But right before that, as he like walks to the door and like talks to him, it's like music's happy. But like before that, when he's holding the ring, it is fucking ominous, like dark music tones. Even until it cuts to the older Bilbo. And yeah, it's like, this isn't a happy ending to this story. It's like this is a somber ending. Lots of dwarves died. Lots of people in Lake Town died. An entire city was destroyed. Like, and now
the men of Lake Town aren't celebrating at the end. They're kind of just chins held up high.
Yep.
Dwarves are fucking crying.
Sauron is back.
Sauron's back.
It's like, it's not a happy ending, and so I was glad that that they went in a more kind of dark route with it, with the ending.
Absolutely.
Even though we do get a kind of like, like there's hope because Gandalf's there and we know how the Lord of the Rings ends, but at the same time it's like that's still another 9 hours, 10 hours of movie out from, you got to watch a lot to experience that happy ending.
I think it leads nicely into Lord of the Rings, because that's the way I like to watch these movies. I watch The Hobbit first, not only because that's story wise. But, it's always better to save the best for last.
That's true. Okay.
So, is that it? Mampton.
That is the end of the movie.
Mampton.
The end of the movie, yeah. It blends pretty much seamlessly into the beginning of Fellowship there. It does what it's supposed to. It fills in some missing pieces that we were wondering about. And... it's somber, like you said, but...
Babelia's spoons, great reference. Sorry.
I like the transition of when Bilbo is holding the ring in his hand, and then the hand doesn't change, but it's like he's older.
Oh, yeah, good call. Yeah, beautiful shot. Absolutely
very
love it.
square hands.
Alright, so, fucking general criticism. So, yeah, a lot of people fucking hate this trilogy.
So Dakota's going to go through criticisms, and we will talk about them. This is for the entire trilogy.
And I'm going to pick...
I have broken down... Okay, Matt's going to miss my introduction. How long is it going? Okay, I've broken it down into 3 categories why I think a lot of people hate these movies. The first one, which I sympathize with the most, is the aesthetics of the movie. The second one, which I, understand, but whatever, is the adaptation. And the third one that I think is overall way blown out of proportion is the production. So... Man, I wish Matt was here. So, the aesthetic. First, this was shot in 48 frames per second. Super experimental. 3D digital cameras. Lots of green screen backgrounds. More so than Lord of the Rings. lot more. No miniatures whatsoever, which is the one I'm most upset about. People always bitch about orcs, but man, those orcs look good in Battle of the Five Armies. Did they not? Like the Gundabad ones?
Yeah, they look great.
But like miniatures, man, I wish they had miniatures in these movies. And no force perspective with the Hobbits. They couldn't do the force perspective tricks with the 3D photography, so they had to like have 2 stages with motion control cameras that move at the same time, and have one actor in a green screen and the rest of the actors on the real set, and blend the two. And because of these aesthetic differences, people just kind of, hate on The Hobbit. And, I kind of get that, because it's like, yeah, I fucking, I love 35 millimeter film, and we drive to go see film prints, and
we own film prints?
Yeah, we own film prints. I love practical effects. I love 24 frames per second and think it was a bad idea to not do that. I get it, but at the end of the day, the story is what's most important. And even though the aesthetics of Lord of the Rings are better, I don't think, for me, it ruins The Hobbit in any way, really. But what do y'all think?
So, I honestly, not a lot of this stuff bothers me at all. Like, the 48 frames per second, I couldn't really tell.
Surprisingly, not too much. Honestly, I mainly could tell with like jittery motions, but like big motions weren't bad at all. But there were a few, like, I don't know, I can't explain it. There were very
get
few
used to it a
times
little bit
where I could notice. You could tell?
I mean, at first, but then you kind of just get used to it.
Continue.
I don't really notice the 48 frames per second. The 3D spaces, like, some of them, like, obviously look better than others. I think that the ones that looked the worst for me were when they would do kind of wide angle pan backs of people like running. Most of the time it was like orcs and stuff as they're running away. Like there was one I remember in, I think, Desolation, that was a Volg running with the group, like once they get to the lake, once the barrel scene is over.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, it's just like it isn't great, and there's a lot like that where it would kind of pan back, and like you can kind of see the 3D environments a little bit when they're in Erebor as well with the fight with Smaug. But yeah, for the most part, it doesn't really distract me too much, and like looking at how they did the production, like it's just like it's incredible, like how they were able to insert these actors into these like sets and stages and like 3D environments that they're creating, and make it like create this world and whatnot, just like with green screens, and like it's impressive regardless of if it's done less practically and more because it's
a different kind of great.
It's a combination of things, because like I was
gonna say, I think the style of the movie it fits it a little bit more, because things have to be embellished more. You have more creatures like trolls, which are going to be very hard to do multiple trolls and practical effects. So I mean, you kind of
Fellowship didn't even do fucking. They had CGI trolls.
Yeah, so it's like you're asking for a tall order, especially I mean, there's got to be some kind of give and take.
Yeah, well, I the big thing people lament is the orc CGI, and it's like, the prosthetic orcs obviously look better, but they actually do have quite a few of them in all 3 movies, and not only that, but like prosthetic wise, they have to do 13 dwarves every day in the prosthetic department, and their makeup is crazy good. It's so good. And so it's like, people are upset there isn't enough prosthetic orcs, but like the prosthetic dwarves
take precedent.
Are still fuckload of work, and it's it's not a kooky, awesome creature, but it's still I don't know. It's just people don't give it credit, and like there really aren't too many sequences, at least in the first two, that are full green screen sets. Most of the time, they're working off of a set, and then there's like a backdrop. But the sets they built on The Hobbit are so fucking dope. Like Lake Town. Lake Town is an absolutely incredible set. They actually built the Hobbit holes this time before they just put doors in the hills. This time, every single hole you see is a real Hobbit hole. And they were able to get shots in the inside where Gandalf's walking out and he's looking out the window. And so it's like there are other areas where they went above Lord of the Rings.
Not to mention all the scaling.
Yeah. It's just the movie, just because they use CGI doesn't mean the movies are hard to make. But visually, all of I think, like, aside from Goblin Town, all of the, like, location shots don't look as good as the miniatures. Like, the CGI Dol Guldur, and the miniatures in Lord of the Rings are so ridiculously impressive and way, way better than The Hobbit. Like, puts them to shame. And that is the one thing, if I could change about this movie, that's what I would change, is have them use more models. But it's still awesome. Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, I just want to say that just because things are done with CG doesn't mean that they aren't being done practically as well. You know, like the ice that Azog and Thorin fought in, like that was a hydraulic platform that actually moved and shifted, and things like that. You know, when Legolas like runs on the dwarves' heads, you know, he had to like actually have pillars that moved and jumped back and forth.
Every time a character did need to do anything on like a full green screen set, normally they would have something there to mimic the environment well, to make sure they weren't comfortable. Like, yeah, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, that's it.
And and just realistically, it's like it's something happened between Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and that's called Avatar. Avatar came out, and it was like 90% fucking CGI and 3D, and Weta Digital made it, and it became the biggest fucking movie ever. Like, it's like, why are people fucking surprised that Peter Jackson used so much digital effects when he's part of the digital revolution, and Avatar like made so much fucking money and was so successful?
Right.
I'm not shocked that he was like, oh, I bet people would like, you know, Middle Earth in 3D. I'll try that out. I'm not shocked at all. Yeah, overall, just a big complaint is just, you know, people love just all the lack of, I don't know, people think The Hobbit has so much CGI that it makes them unwatchable. And but they go watch Revenge of the Sith and all the MCU movies. So
Infinity War was the greatest movie ever.
Okay, that's a low blow argument, but
That's a low blow. But it's true. Everybody loves it, and the CGI is in it, and it's all fucking over the place. One of the fucking main characters is completely made of
they
CGI.
don't even make costumes. That's the other thing people overlook, like the amount of props that they made for The Hobbit, costumes, sets, decoration, fucking just the amount of detail that went into everything. Yeah, it's still impressive. And I think even just on a subconscious level, just some people, even if they can't describe it and don't know much, they just can tell it looks different from Lord of the Rings, because it does.
Yeah.
But I think it looks different from Lord of the Rings, but I still think it looks good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the other reason people hate the movie is adaptation. Everyone hates that it's 3 movies, 1 book.
Honestly, I can't really comment on this one too much. I mean, you've discussed a decent amount of like the changes.
Well,
with this,
people
but...
just think it's like purely motivated by money and, you know, wanting to make as much as possible, because at first they were splitting the book into 2 movies, and so people kind of saw it as like Harry Potter, Mockingjay, Twilight, I don't know, Divergent. I don't know if they did it.
Probably.
But
I think so, yeah.
People kind of thought they were just trying to ride that bandwagon rather than trying to tell the story properly.
By cramming it all into one clusterfuck of a movie.
It really would be. And even if it wasn't a clusterfuck, it would just be too simple and
if it's not
too fast paced.
Yeah, if it's not a clusterfuck, it'd be fast and stupid. And if it packs everything that it needs to into it, it would be a fucking clusterfuck shit show. Like, it's fucking
takes time.
So it initially started as 2 movies, and when this was announced, I was kind of honestly like, where are they gonna split it? I had no idea. I was so confused. I just I had no concrete idea of when they were going to split the movies. So I was open for it just because I wanted to see as much as possible. And not only that, but Two Towers. The Two Towers movie, so much of it is not in the book. And it's based on so little of the book, honestly. Most of what's in the book of the Two Towers, or not most, but a good chunk of it is in Return of the King. And so they had to kind of embellish Two Towers a lot. And so when I heard they were making 2 movies, I was like, well, yeah, because of Two Towers, I can see it happening. Anyways, the moment they announced 3 movies, I just totally understood where the films were gonna break. Like, the instant they were like, we're actually gonna make 3, I was just like, the climax of the first one is going to be the wargs, and then they're gonna save the dragon for part 1, or for part 3, and I was fucking right. And I don't know, I think that's part of why I enjoyed these movies too. It's because I wasn't really too surprised by that stuff, because I had been watching the behind the scenes and I knew how they adapted stuff and I knew their choices they made. But yeah, I as a book fan, I relish in having a 9-hour adaptation of it that yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, like I have no connection to the book, so there was no source material that I was expecting this to be like. I was just excited to get to experience more time in this like fantasy world that I love.
Yeah, Mampton, what do you comment on having to sit through 3 Hobbit movies?
I don't think they could have done it any better. I mean,
oh, damn. Awesome.
I'm listening to your guys' arguments, and you guys know a little bit more than I do about the subject, and it just, it makes sense as to where it's going to end naturally, because we watched that Franklin and Bass one, or rather,
you're just like, remember? You're forgetting.
Internet, you're fucking forgetting
it's
too.
It's like you got spoiled with 2 amazing Hobbit movies, and now you're all pissed off at this one. It's like, don't you forget.
When you cram all that shit together, it turns out
that's very
horrible.
true. It is like worlds better than the Battle of the Five Armies in the fucking in the animated version.
A battle of 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, 5 armies. It's so lame.
Yeah, dang that Soren.
It's Soren.
Okay, but yeah, and another thing, this is just a little theory of mine, but most people actually read The Hobbit, and people couldn't finish Lord of the Rings, and so they're not aware of all the... Like, I honestly think Lord of the Rings makes more changes than The Hobbit does. The Hobbit has more major additions, but in terms of changes, Lord of the Rings by far has more constantly. I mean, the movie can't go just 3 minutes without changing some detail, honestly, or rearranging lines, or something. Where like The Hobbit is just a balance of like exactly like the book, stuff that Peter, Fran, Philippa, and Guillermo are embellishing, and kind of a dance of that. And I think that's why people dislike it.
Yeah, so a couple days ago, we were actually talking about this, and so Dakota pulls out a copy of Fellowship and kind of goes into like how some of the like exposition and flashbacks are delivered. And yeah, he pulls out a little quote, and it shows Gandalf talking to Frodo, like when he realizes that he's got the One Ring. And yeah, he gives him like a whole conversation, and like Frodo's just like, "Oh, I wish the ring would have never come to me," and he's just like, "Oh, so do all." And it's like this happens at like the very beginning in Still in the Shire, and that doesn't happen until Moria.
That whole chapter is chopped up and split throughout the whole movies, and you know nobody cares. Fucking like, I don't know. It's but a lot of people read The Hobbit. People it's because it's a short, easy book to read. And also too, you know, Lord of the Rings was popular for so many years. Anyways, The Hobbit is like a quick, easy, fun read. And before the movie, you know, there were so many years where people had the Lord of the Rings films, and then it was like, oh, The Hobbit, it connects to it. And so people read that, tried to read Lord of the Rings, couldn't get past Tom Bombadil, and was like, fuck it, I'll just watch those awesome movies. So when the Hobbit movies came out, there's a different perspective, I think, that the general audience had. Because most people were being introduced to Lord of the Rings for the first time. Yeah, I think there was a different expectation for these films. And I just, like, it's speculation, I know, but I'm just willing to bet way more people read The Hobbit than Lord of the Rings, and aren't aware of a lot of the changes.
What's next?
Overall adaptation, yeah, I don't know. People most people just wanted something straightforward. And what this is
too
not
bad we got awesomeness.
Yeah, this is a complex tale of, like, betrayal and inheritance and political allegory, and like there's a lot of ambiguity that is going on and a lot of nuance, specifically like when it comes to like the racial tension that is kind of existing, you know, like the between elves and dwarves, and like the nature of like
a lot of daddy
dwarves,
issues in this one,
like,
too,
and like why dwarves are so stubborn and just all this stuff.
It's also about kind of just like getting out in the world. I mean, Bilbo's whole arc is that he just starts off as someone who just wants to hide in his hole and be stuffy and kind of live a boring life. And Gandalf kind of wants him to party with some dwarves and get out, enjoy life, do something. And
have some risk, and give him something good to write his book about, because I mean, you know, you would assume, because Gandalf seems to know him for a long time, so he'd probably know that he liked to write or anything else, but that's not necessarily delved into in the movies or anything like that. But
people have made fan edits, and the fan edits that people have made, they're just like, it's a lot like the book, and that's kind of what's funny, is the Hobbit movies really are very true to the book. It's just, and then some. Alright. The third thing that people don't like is overall just how the production of these films went. In the early days, Guillermo del Toro was signed on to direct. The script started to be written in 2008. Pre-production started in... casting and stuff started in 2009. And so did pre-production. And then... and then Guillermo del Toro was hired, and everyone was stoked. Like, Guillermo del Toro's Hobbit movies. Then in late 2010, Guillermo del Toro left because Warner Brothers still hadn't given them the green light to actually start the production. So they were doing all this, work ahead of time, but Warner Brothers didn't give them the go-ahead. So eventually, Guillermo, he left. And then,
And then Peter Jackson, like, reluctantly comes on.
It's several months later. Because they were looking for other directors and they couldn't find one. And the casting department couldn't cast anyone without a director, and so Peter Jackson was like, all right, I gotta do it. And so initially Peter Jackson didn't want to direct The Hobbit, and so people kind of hold that against him. And I say initially because he later changed his mind, because the reason he didn't want to direct The Hobbit was because of the dwarves, dealing with 13 dwarves.
I mean, the final bit of Battle of the Five Armies.
13 characters in any fucking movie is tough, let alone like a bunch where most of them are expendable.
Yeah, and they all get cut out of like the final fight, and even what's the big guys, the big dwarf's name?
Dwalin. Bomber.
No, not the fat one. The big burly guy. I think it was Dwalin. Yeah. Yeah, he just like disappears. Like he goes up to the top with them and whatnot, and like two of them get taken out.
He's taking out the stupid ass goblin mercenaries. I guess that's why they're there.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, he's just kind of they don't really acknowledge him after that.
But yeah, the dwarves were hard to deal with, and honestly, the story of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings is very similar, and just he made the Lord of the Rings. He fucking climbed the mountain, and he straight up says in the documentary that he didn't want, like, he knew he couldn't live up to it, and everyone would be judging him harsher because he's following it up, and that it'd just be best if someone else made it.
Right. And plus, you even mentioned in the Desolation of Smaug review that like he was just like, how am I gonna do like another like creepy forest?
Yeah, exactly. There are so many things in this movie that just he's done and had to do, and so people hold that against this film, and so Lord of the Rings. So even though The Hobbit had been in pre-production for a long time, Peter Jackson scrapped it because it was Guillermo del Toro's ideas. And so like he wanted to use his own. So he only had 5 months for pre-production. And so while the behind the scenes, while the pre-production was quick, they spent a long time filming. Like, they did not rush the filming schedule. Just to put it in perspective, they spent 266 days shooting the first 2 Hobbit movies, and that doesn't include pickups. And Infinity War and Endgame were both shot in 200 days. And, yeah, they were both massively bigger. In some ways. But yeah, just this rush script and Jackson's hesitation and the fact that he didn't have a lot of previs or storyboards, and a lot of time they kind of had to as he said, wing it. Like, he's totally open about it, that there are a lot of sequences that they just arrived on set and just kind of plotted out and shot that day, and they're just in the documentaries. They're very honest about the like shortcomings of the productions and what they did to overcome it. And truth be told, when I watch the movies, it kind of makes them more impressive for me, because I'm kind of amazed at what they were able to accomplish under the gun with such little time to prepare. And when I watch the finished product, like, I don't feel, everyone thinks The Hobbit is some just cynical, rushed cash grab that Peter Jackson was forced at gunpoint to make, and I just don't feel like I'm watching that. Like, but yeah, overall, that's the drama. And I'd just like to say there's so much of Lord of the Rings that was done completely last minute, and that was different from the original script, and they changed and shot a scene like 2 months before the movie even came out, and yeah, it's or not shot a scene, but we're still, anyways. So what do y'all think of that? Holding that against the movie and negatively judging it for it.
I mean, I think that that the final product, speaks for itself. It's like you can have 20 years working on a production and have plenty of time and all of this dedication put into it, and it can suck ass. And you could be rushed into something that you didn't necessarily want to do, and find passion in it and pull it together and have it be great. And I feel like that's what we're dealing with here. The end, I think it is kind of,
It's a little more obvious in Battle of the Five Armies, but again, it's like, filmmaking's hard, man. We've done it, and what they did and what he did, like, it's like I think he pulled it off.
Yeah,
man.
If not storyboarding makes you a bad director, then Stanley Kubrick is the worst director ever, because apparently he didn't storyboard at all.
That's what Leon Vitale told us.
Yeah. On a Q&A. He was Stanley Kubrick's assistant director. Should look him up. He's in what was that one?
Barry Lyndon.
Barry Lyndon. It's a good one. It's a long one.
But truth be told, too, everybody's comparing. I've watched the documentaries all my life. Lord of the Rings is my all-time favorite film. Yeah, they worked their fucking ass off on it, and the practical effects they did really were a massive achievement, and they deserved everything they got, and all that jazz. And so it's like, yeah, when you compare any movie to Lord of the Rings, the production is not as fucking good. Most movies, at least. I don't know, not any movie. But when you compare this Hobbit movie to just movies in general, and not the Lord of the Rings production, the monumental achievement that it was, the Hobbit still does more and had more time to prep than your average blockbuster does. I mean, we've been kind of dumping on MCU, but like, they pump that shit out, and there is a formula, and some of their directors don't even get to work out the action scenes because it's all done for them by the special effects department. And Peter Jackson oversees everything in these films, and approves every detail. And I just think it's a shame when people call him lazy. It's like, yeah, I know they're not as good, but he is no fucking George Lucas.
Yeah.
Mampton, what do you got?
On the different techniques. And
Yeah, I
everything.
mean, you've been watching more of the special features with me lately. Like, what do you think? Seeing the behind the scenes and seeing.
Think Peter Jackson's lazy?
Yeah, do you think this is a lazy, cynical
Oh no,
cash?
dude, he tried different stuff, like we were saying with the Mirkwood Forest, how he got the different tones out of that by making that whole huge spooky forest with neon colors and muting it. Yeah, that was an
A
experiment.
detail that's, totally just like on any other movie would be like, who cares? Just fucking color grade it, make it blue, move on.
Yeah, no, he has proven methods, and this one he wanted to see what he could do, and he did amazing work.
I agree.
I agree as well. It's and I don't think, there are 30 hours of behind the scenes footage, and people like to cherry pick, the 30 minutes of it that's like a shit show, and it's kind of unfair to punish them for being honest, because I think they're honest because they're proud. Like, they're not honest because they're trying to tell everyone that they made a bad movie or that the production was shit. They're just like, look what we overcame. We were under the gun. Time was not on our side. And we made this fucking fun ass Middle Earth movie that nerds can geek out over. That, yeah, I don't know. The Hobbit still doesn't, like, get respect from general nerds. It's still just like, I mean, like, the prequels get more respect. Like, Thor the Dark World and Iron Man 3 gets more respect.
That's a low blow.
I mean, a lot of the early, Amazing I see more people fighting for Amazing Spider-Man. It's fucking Fast and the Furious. I don't know. It's these Hobbits' movies don't get respect, and I'm glad that we made these long ass videos kind of praising them, because as this video especially proved, we got issues with them too, but man, they're good.
I think the good far outweighs the bad.
It's like Lord of the Rings is A+, this is like B+, A-.
I'd say like definitely A-.
Yeah.
I'd say
like on the upper end.
Probably one of the best takeaways is that these movies were allowed to take their time to develop the characters without feeling rushed. And I think that, and especially in today's cinema, where it's get shit out there and get it.
Keep it at 2 hours.
Exactly.
Yeah, low budget, fucking big money.
That's the thing. Oh yeah, it's such a cash grab. They made all of them 3 hours. Like, it's like studios hate that. It's like they didn't.
If it's a cash grab, they need to have less time for their runtime so you can squeeze more of the movies in each fucking day.
Yep. Then they make 4 movies. No, realistically, what happened is, because what Peter, Fran, and Philippa always do is they write a fuckload, and they had like 2 movies and a lot of deleted footage. Like, when they decided to change it from 2 to 3, they didn't have to shoot that much filler for Desolation of Schmog, because they just already had so much material that they had written. And they had to pitch it to the studio too. People always like throw this narrative that the studio forced them to do it when they had to like ask. Like, I mean, I'm sure the studio was fine with it, but it's just like, I don't know. It's like, just because Lord of the Rings is the greatest movie ever doesn't mean you gotta fucking shit on these so much.
Yeah, I really enjoy these movies. First 2 especially. This one I still love, even with the criticisms. It's like, just because the end is like a little, crazy doesn't make the journey's end less impactful. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And,
I definitely think that if you criticize these movies, you should come back to them and give them another chance. They're worth it. They're good movies and they're fun. And it's like, it's just another... Like,
if you have to, go check out a fan edit if that's really what it takes.
Yeah,
I'm not a big I'm not a
He's not a fan of fan edits.
I'm not a fan of fan edits, but if that's what it takes, if that's what it takes to enjoy part of what Peter, Fran, Philippa, and Guillermo have created, because he helped write these movies. Everyone fucking
he's credited.
Nobody blames him for anything. It's like he's the only one who wasn't involved in Lord of the Rings. Maybe he wrote all the dumb shit. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I don't know. I mean, he helped with fucking Death Stranding. That was kind of a shit show a little bit. I mean, it won awards.
Nah, so I love Del Toro. I'm not trying to talk shit. However, I'm happy Peter Jackson made these movies. I prefer Peter Jackson rushed making this as opposed to Del Toro with all of his planned pre-production. I think Peter Jackson just has a certain genuine charm and unashamed, just nerdy fucking, I don't know, imagination.
Passion.
Yeah, passion, imagination. He's able to do everything. He balances every genre. And I really love him for that. And you know what? He fucking made Lord of the Rings. He deserves to do whatever the goddamn fuck he wants with The Hobbit, as far as I'm concerned.
And yeah, he just recently did They Shall Not Grow Old. If you
Yeah.
haven't seen that, probably the best World War I documentary I have ever seen, ever. Like,
Yeah.
so fucking good. But you know what? I'm not gonna say it. Go watch it.
Personally, do you want to say a quick thing or no?
Y'all motherfuckers need to rewatch the
The Rankin Bass.
the Rankin Bass Hobbit. Like, seriously. Also, reread the book and go, huh, wow, there's really not much description in this book at all.
I mean, there is and there isn't.
There were 2 with red capes and 2 with blue capes.
Not much plot description.
Yeah, no, there's...
Don't make the Tolkien fans mad.
Hey, The Hobbit was a starter book for him.
I mean, at this point,
Let's-
I don't think any Tolkien fans are
Yeah, like...
watching this. They're like, oh, they like the Peter Jackson's Hobbit? Dislike!
No, I'm a Tolkien fan. I got all his books.
I have plenty of bones to pick with it, but not in the larger scheme of things. I reread, like, the Hobbit was, like, one of my favorite books as a little kid. Reread it as an adult, and I was like, shit. Like, they really just go, and then this happened, and then they're here, and then that happened, and then they're here, and then this happened, and then there's this guy. His name is Bard, and this happened, and now he's king. It's like, seriously, like the most, like, wait, hold up, what happened in between? And Peter Jackson answered all the questions that my adult mind had after reading The Hobbit as an adult as to what happened in the in-between. That as a kid, you don't really question when you read The Hobbit. And it's like, oh yeah, just the next thing. Stuff happened in between. I don't know. But then as an adult, when you read it, you're like, wait a minute. Like, hold up. So I appreciated that, and also, you know, I was able to be like, even though I didn't read the appendices in detail, I was able to like look at the sections of the appendices that were used and appreciate their use and introduction into The Hobbit. Also, like, just the chemistry of all the actors, the dwarves, is
Yep.
fucking amazing. Like,
Yep.
their camaraderie. And
They
you really get
actually
this.
are characters.
Yeah, and they're like
They can
individual
sing
people.
as a
It's
group.
not. Those are the ones with the blue hoods, and those are the ones with the red hoods, and that's the yellow one, and like they all.
These
Those
two
are
have
the
the same
Bloods,
face.
those are the
and
Crips.
These two have the same face.
Like, I could remember who was who, and like they're all distinct,
Yeah.
and like there were some that I liked, and then there was like, he seems like a dick, I don't like him, and stuff like that. Like, I could make judgments about them, and like felt like I knew a little something about them, and like it actually meant something when some of them died. Like,
Yeah, how dare you,
By-
Peter
by-
Jackson, give these characters death's weight?
Seriously.
Come on now.
By the way, person has been busy through these. Didn't actually watch these movies with us, but we've been together for years. So
I've
She's
seen
seen
these
them.
movies
Yeah,
many times.
we've been together
I saw
eight.
Desolation of Schmog multiple times in
Yeah.
theaters. I've seen all of these movies in theaters multiple times.
So yeah,
I've seen them
it's-
on video
she-
multiple times. So even if I was not here for the viewing, I have legitimate.
She's an essential worker who showed up during the last 20 minutes. So
Yeah.
that's why she hasn't been with the reviews, but she's here to chime in now.
Yes. 12-hour day, people.
But I am sad you didn't get to join us throughout most of them. But you know what?
I'm not sad I missed out rewatching the Rankin Bass one. Because I think it was me that was like, we need to rewatch this because your childhood is not how you remember it. Because I used to watch that all the time as a kid. And I rewatched it as an adult, and I was just like,
It's horrible.
why did I
Okay.
watch that all the time as a kid?
So-
I was a stupid motherfucking child.
So some of you may think we're going to review Fellowship of the Ring next while in quarantine.
Ain't
No.
happening.
We are going to wait until we see it in a theater proper. Hopefully on film. That would be amazing.
The 20th anniversary is
Yeah,
coming up.
it's coming up. Someone's gonna show it. It might get like a 4K restoration and a wide release. I don't care how we see it, but we are gonna wait to review it until we see it in theaters, and it's gonna be a good one. If you want my review now, it's the greatest trilogy ever made.
Yeah, I'll
The
agree with
end.
that.
Are we doing the Bong Joon Ho down next?